Contrary to popular opinion, the White Star Line owned ship called the Titanic did not strike an iceberg and sink. It was a major insurance scheme, a scam. You see, the Titanic was owned by White Star Line, and Illuminati member J.P. Morgan owned the White Star Line. All you got to do is go research the history of this personality, this character named J.P. Morgan, and do the independent research on the Titanic, and you're going to put two and two together, and you're going to realize that J.P. Morgan got over on people, on the government again. He did it so many times. Him and his cronies, his buddies, got over on the American people, the American government, so many times. And he did it again with the Titanic. You know, it really wasn't the Titanic that went out. You know, on that April, I believe it was 1912 voyage, that April 1912 voyage, it really wasn't the Titanic. It was the sister ship, also owned by the White Star Line, called Olympic, that was actually larger than the Titanic by 100 feet, I believe. It was that ship that actually went out on the maiden voyage as the Titanic. See, the Olympic was an older ship, but it gave the White Star Line and J.P. Morgan a lot of problems, had a lot of mechanical problems. It was involved in a few accidents. It was just a financial disaster. And this cat, J.P. Morgan, just like the rest of the robber barons, those guys were wickedly, insidiously smart. That's just what it was. I mean, these guys were smart, but they were wicked. They were sinister. But that's how you rule the world. You know, it's not about good and bad. The masses of the people, they got that all mixed up. It's not about good and bad. It's about intelligence and ignorance, knowledge and ignorance. That's what it boils down to. Now, to truly get in a position of power in the world, you would have to be intelligent and good or righteous. What's going on now is you have a lot of people who are good but ignorant as hell. That's the problem. A lot of good people are just dumb, just ignorant. And so that's why, you know, a few smart, wicked people run the world. J.P. Morgan was one of these guys who was smart, but just seriously wicked. The Olympic was sent out as the Titanic right before the Titanic was supposed to set sail for that maiden voyage. J.P. Morgan had everything on the Olympic taken off and put on Titanic. And everything on Titanic he had taken off and put on Olympic. That man sent an old beat up ship, you know, body wise. Because inside the ship it was nice chandelier, carpet, you know, it was immaculate. But the frame was old and was beat up. And he sent the Olympic out as the Titanic. And a bomb exploded. It wasn't an iceberg, it was a bomb. And many of the eyewitnesses gave testimony to the fact that they heard a loud explosion. Now I have a video, a VHS video. It's a 2-part video. And it's in my storage. I have a lot of things in storage. I'm a tourist, we whore, we don't get rid of nothing. And it's Titanic, A Question of Murder. Man, I don't know if you can get a hold of this video, but this video will mess you up. It's documented. What I'm saying is documented. Now, a lot of people don't like to deal with the truth. You know, we don't like to deal with the truth here in this country. We know Columbus did not discover America, but do you think that's going to stop the federal government from acknowledging Columbus Day? No. Why? Because we didn't taught it for so long. We can't say we screwed up, we messed up, and, you know, he really didn't discover America. What he did was, uh, conquer some people. You know what I'm saying? He committed genocide on the natives. The government, they're not coming out and telling the truth. They're going to keep that lie going. And that's part of what's wrong with government, knowing the truth but can't tell the truth because it's not politically expedient and convenient. So they keep a lie going. And it's the same thing with the Titanic, but the research has been done. There's been a lot of independent research on the Titanic, and the facts, the evidence show that the Titanic did not strike an iceberg. A bomb detonated because J.P. Morgan wanted that ship to sink because he wanted to collect the insurance money on this unsinkable ship. And it is reported that J.P. Morgan received 10 times the amount of the cost of the Titanic in insurance money. You got to call that a serious scheme. I mean, that was a scam masterfully pulled off. He pulled it off. And innocent people had to die because, again, it goes back to the insurance. J.P. Morgan had insurance on the passengers. And, people died so that one man could make money, but that's the robber barons for you. That's the robber barons for you. Now, the Titanic weighed 40,000 tons. Now, according to ship law, and it may be old ship law, there's supposed to be 1,000 lifeboats for every 10,000 tons. For every 10,000 tons that a ship weighs, there's supposed to be 1,000 lifeboats. So 10,000 tons equal 1,000 lifeboats. The Titanic weighed 40,000 tons. Therefore, the Titanic was supposed to have 4,000 lifeboats, which means everybody on that ship before it went down would have gotten off the ship had they gone by, the rules and the regulations. Every 10,000 tons equals 1,000 lifeboats. Well, there was, about 1,000 or less lifeboats. You think White Star Line didn't know that they were supposed to have 1,000 lifeboats per 10,000 tons pertaining to the weight of the ship? Of course they knew that. There were less lifeboats on the Titanic, which was really the Olympic, because people needed to die, or they had to die, I should say. Well, J.P. Morgan needed for people to die. I mean, this dude, it was an insurance scam, an insurance scheme, and he collected. And he made sure that that ship went down in Iceberg waters because he needed that alibi. And you come on, 1912, I mean, that ship wasn't going to be found, It went down a mile deep into the Atlantic Ocean. He wasn't expecting for the Titanic to be found. And I'll never forget, back in 1985, we were domiciling on 105th Street. And I was laying in the bed, and I heard the radio in the morning say that the Titanic was discovered, because I was always infatuated with the Titanic. When you watch a lot of my videos, I talk about a lot of subjects. I was fascinated by so many things as a little boy. The Titanic, the Manson murders, the Jonestown massacre, the Atlanta child murders. I was just into a lot of things. History was one of my favorite subjects, and the Titanic, before it all blew up with the James Cameron movie, I was deep into Titanic history. And in my mind, I would go back to the ship the night that it sank, And with my mind just being creative, I would think of things that could have been done to save people. I've just always been like that, And it's like I create a certain energy, even though I'm like, playing in my mind about how things could have turned out, how people could have been saved. Energy was created, and that energy followed me. So In 1985, I'm 15. I'm into basketball now. I'm like the #1 Laker fan, and things change. But in the back of my mind, I still was into certain things that happened. World history, national history, and one of those things were the Titanic. So in 1985, I just happened to be listening to the radio, and it's like they found the Titanic, and I used to actually pretend, fantasize that I had billions of dollars to locate and raise the Titanic. I saw a movie in 1980 starring Jason Robards, and it was called Raise the Titanic. And then that movie greatly impressed upon me, And I remember reading about certain individuals talking about if the Titanic was found, that it would cost billions to bring it up from the sea. And I would hear about people saying that, if the Titanic was found, I think that we should leave it there. Even when the Titanic was found, you had a lot of people saying, no, leave it there. It's a watery grave. Let's respect the people who died there. And I'm the type of person like, man, forget that. These people are, come on, it's just skeletons now. Let's raise the Titanic so we can look at it and inspect and think. That's just, I think that's a Torian thing, the material aspect, and just being sentimental. Let's raise it. Let's put it on display. And let's find things. It's like, and that's all. I'm Scorpio ascendant too, so research, investigation. Let's investigate this ship. Let's research. Let's find out. What's going on and everything. Maybe we can find certain documents. Just certain evidence. That was just my mind. Just fantasized and thinking about being a billionaire and spending billions of dollars on raising the Titanic. And I didn't understand a lot of cats back then who said that they would not spend the money to raise the Titanic. And now, even though I'm not a billionaire yet, it's nowhere in the world I would spend billions of dollars on the Titanic. If anything, I'm gonna be feeding the poor and creating private schools, and I'm gonna be doing things of that nature. I'm not gonna be raising some Titanic, because how does that help the world? How does that help people? But nevertheless, it's something that is still with me. Sam Cooke, Natalie Wood, Marilyn Monroe, certain murders, the Manson murders, and that's a Scorpio side of me, and there's a Capricorn in the third house, Placidus orb, that propels me in the area of research, investigation, and especially into dark things. A lot of people don't understand why I get down with the dark side and negativity. It's Scorpio, and I'm true to that. Anytime you're true to yourself, you're going to be successful in life, because as old Shakespeare, who was really, well, I should say Shakespeare was a pen name, a pseudonym for Sir Francis Bacon. Shakespeare never existed, but that's another video. Shakespeare never existed. That was my man, Sir Francis Bacon. You read about Hamlet, Bacon is. The dude wrote in code words. That's another fascinating topic. My head, I have so many things in my head that to me are just fascinating. Things that took place. Whether it's an individual, an event, dealing with a particular locale or a geography. Yeah, it's just a Scorpio thing. So, but anyway. Because we're talking about the Titanic, and y'all know me, it's easy for me to divert and get off track. Is knowing that where I would spend $1 billion raising the Titanic. First and foremost, the evidence is out that it was an insurance scam or scheme. It really doesn't even involve me or involve anybody on the scene today. A lot of people are interested in what happened for various reasons. A lot of time I think about the people, man, who were on that ship when it went down in Iceberg, cold water, man. That in and of itself was painful. That water was cold that night, man. Wow, talk about hypothermia. man, you know, and I think about things like that, you know, like in Jonestown, like, man, you know, these people that were waiting to, you know, to die, like what was going on in their minds, man? Did anybody think to escape? You know, what I have done, if I was on the scene, this mind, I play around a lot. I'm always thinking, you know, when I was in South Central Los Angeles and the Night Stalker was on the scene, Richard Ramirez, you know, I would be up many nights, even though I knew he wasn't coming to South Central, and I felt safe in South Central. You know, even though we had bars on the house, most of the homes had bars, you know, over the windows on the windows. You know, which now when I go, you know, when I return to the hood and look at the houses, I'm like, man, you know, like were we keeping people out or were we keeping ourselves in? You know, because you hear about homes burning up and there are fires and people are trapped in the house because bars are on the windows. It's crazy, you know, because I reside in Glendale now, and you know, there are no bars on the homes, you know, so it's just a whole different dynamic. And even dealing with Richard Ramirez, I didn't know anything about Glendale, but a couple of the victims actually resided here in Glendale. You know, the Hillside Strangler murders took place here in Glendale. And even though it's a safe city, you can see why certain things took place because it's so quiet. You know, this would be the perfect place to commit a murder because you know it's safe here. The energy is safe. You will catch people slipping, and you know people had the windows open even after the Manson murders. You know, I think we got a little lax after the Manson murders. You know, because people stopped, you know, leaving the windows open. You know, and then people was getting house alarms installed. They were getting watchdogs, buying guns. Everything increased after the Manson murders. But I think the people got lax, and in 1985, um, you know, during that period when the Night Stalker, you know, was on the prowl, and there were a few people in Glendale who were murdered, and these people, you know, had the windows up, you know, they had the doors unlocked. It was just crazy, you know. Um, I think the biggest, I think the biggest uh, event, you can even say group of murderers that really intrigued me were the Manson family. And I read about how Charles Manson entered the home of Lino and Rosemary LaBianca, came through a back door that was unlocked. And that was just really common for a lot of people. They didn't have to worry about things, but it gave certain people like Charles Manson an opportunity to violate space, coming into someone's home uninvited and created, you know, a very bloody, very violent murder. Actually, murders because Lino and Rosemary LaBianca uh, were savagely, brutally butchered. And, you know, I mean, just being deep into the Manson murders, I bought everything. As a matter of fact, I have all my books here, Helter Skelter, and books by Vincent Bugliosi. I had Road, Mangler, Deluxe by Theo Kaufman. He kind of screwed some of the Manson females, and he talks about in this book here, The Manson File, The Chronicles of Murder. This is a good book here, The Shadow Over Santa Susanna. The Family is probably the best book by Ed Sanders on the Manson murders. Manson in his own words, and this is a great book here too, Sharon Tate and the Manson murders. And then I got Squeaky, The Life and Times of Lynette Alice Fromm and Roman Polanski. I just collect, and you got to read all of that information to piece things together. And I believe it was in the book Sharon Tate and the Manson Murders by my man Greg King, which I thought that book was better than Helter Skelter, written by Vincent Bugliosi. You know, but I studied so much, and I got all the intricate pieces. Like, how did this dude get into this house? You know, and they left the back door open. Manson really wanted to commit a murder of these two guys who lived in a big mansion next to the LaBianca house. It was like a little Spanish-style white house that the LaBiancas lived in, and they couldn't get in that mansion. So you know, Manson was like, "Well, hell, we'll just hit the next house." You know, because Manson was like, "We're gonna kill somebody." Because Manson was pissed off because he didn't get a record deal. You know, and people, you know, Stody, why did Manson do all that? First of all, Manson didn't kill anybody. You know, Manson was not all the way there mentally. You know, he wasn't crazy. Now they make him out to be crazy, and this dude was not crazy. You know, to do the things that he did. You know, and there's a lot of information on Manson that a lot of people don't even know. And I mean, I got so many old VHS videotapes that's just crazy. And I have one that shows Manson as a little boy, age 2, and they used to dress him up like a little girl. I mean, Manson was like sexually abused, and I just found it so ironic that we have video on Charles Manson at age 2, because in my research I came across something called the Rosemary Baby Project, where the government would actually take children, you know, from foster homes and raise them, and make them into assassins and make them into serial killers, because that type of activity served a purpose in controlling the American people. You know, you read about the Son of Sam, the Zodiac killer. You get really deep into these murders here, it's going to mess you up. You know, and the majority of the people can't really deal with this stuff because it's going to implement government. It's going to implement law enforcement. You know, the Son of Sam, the Zodiac killer, who was Arthur Lee Allen, was a member of the United States military, and that's why he wrote in code. The truth of a lot of things that occur will never hit the masses, because the masses are going to gravitate to the official story. Manson, you wanted a race war, and Manson was pissed off because he didn't get a record deal by Terry Melcher, who was the son, I believe, of actress Doris Day. And Manson had actually been at the Tate Polanski house. He knew that house. Every place Manson went, he knew those places. Like the mansion he wanted to kill the people, the 2 guys in, he went to parties there. Manson was around some heavyweights. He wasn't this little crazy groupie type dude. They made him into that, but this dude had a lot of influence over people, And was it Dennis Wilson of the Beach Boys? Manson had him. He used to call Manson the Wizard. Manson actually toured, with the Rolling Stones. I mean, this dude was not this little weirdo type of dude that they have made him out to be. This dude had serious influence over people. And I've read the documents about that whole CIA involvement, whereby the drugs the Manson family was dealing, was provided by the CIA. I read about Sharon Tate and Jay Sebring actually going to Spahn Ranch to get dope from the Manson family. So it ain't like it was just some innocent stuff and they chose Sharon Tate and her friends. There was a connection there. You had Hollywood celebrities dealing with certain individuals of society. It was like worlds apart. These were lowly type people. These were celebs, but celebs did dope. Wojciech Frykowski was a drug dealer. Sharon Tate, Roman Polanski, they did opiates. And the Manson family, provided drugs. You get deep into the Manson family, you're going to be dealing with drugs, so-called illegal or illicit drugs. But my research led me to discovering how they entered that house. And I know for the Tate house, they took the screen off the window and opened up the window and came into Sharon Tate's house and, of course, butchered everybody in there. And they would have butchered William Garrison, the 17-year-old housekeeper who was in the back house. And he lied for all those years. And I know I'm supposed to be talking about the Titanic, and I should have did a video on the Manson murders. I study too much, and everything just flows now. So bear with me. The 17-year-old William Garrison, he lied, said he didn't hear nothing. I'm like, that's bullshit, man. How you not gonna hear a gunshot, man? You're in the back house, and that dude heard everything. But I can't blame that dude. He hid. He heard like the door. They were trying to open the door to the back house, and he was smart. He ran out, and he was back there with the dogs, with the watchdogs. And that must have been some eerie stuff, man. That must have been some very eerie stuff, to witness those screams and to hear people dying, or to hear people being murdered. It was just very eerie. Beverly Hills is very beautiful. But I'm the type of person, I think that more, if a crime jumped off, man, or some type of murder, or Michael Myers, or Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's just certain communities, you just wouldn't want to be in. The beautiful big homes and stuff like that. But boy, if a monster or a killer was after your behind, it wouldn't be ideal. And that's why coming up, I felt safe in South Central, because it could be 12 o'clock midnight. Somebody was always on the street corner. It was always some type of activity. So, it wasn't like in the nice white suburban neighborhoods. It's quiet, nobody's around. It's ideal for a killer to come in and do his thing. South Central wasn't happening, because, we're just always somebody out. Cats with the boom box, listening to music, be 12, 1, 2 o'clock. You hear somebody arguing. There was always activity going on. So you felt safe, even though you're part of the larger city. We read about the night stalker in the LA Times, he struck again. Our old newspaper, the Herald Examiner, the night stalker, struck again. And it's like, damn, like you in South Central, but you connected to Glendale, connected to Los Feliz, you're connected to Beverly Hills, Bel Air. It's our city, and these murders are taking place in parts of our city, but nevertheless, it's affecting us as Los Angelinos. Same thing with the Hillside Strangler murders, which a lot of the murders took place here in Glendale and near La Crescenta, and that got me heavily intrigued. And I'll be writing about that as well too. And it's just a trip to witness things so close to home. And I remember when I got the address to the La Bianca house. And I'm thinking that it was way out somewhere. Now I knew Sharon Tate stayed well off in Beverly Hills, and that's kind of far from South Central. It's also somewhat far from Glendale. But I found the address. I'm like, man, wait, I travel down Los Feliz all the time. So you get to Los Feliz, and then you get to Griffith Park. I believe it's Griffith Park Avenue, and you bust a left, and then you go down this other street because Greg King wrote about it in his book. So when I read about addresses, I'll get those addresses, and I go there. I'm a writer, and in order for me to be effective in my writing type of writer that I am, being a Scorpio ascendant, I go to certain location. Now, I don't go in the house and I don't do things like that. I don't have it in me to do stuff like that. As a Scorpio, I'm into the philosophy of death, murder, killing. What makes people tick? Why do people murder? I look evil in the eye. And that's just something that I do. Which so I can deal with a lot of topics that a lot of people can't deal with. Because a lot of people keep it positive, man. Stay in the positive, stay in the light. No, I'm gonna deal with the darkness. Because it's polarity. And you can't always just stay in the light. You just can't always, positivity doesn't, that's not a reality in our world. A lot of dark stuff happen. I mean, dark stuff. I have the photos of the women who were murdered during the Hillside Strangler, murder spree. I look at these dead bodies, man, and it's like, man, like how could these cats do that, man? I mean, these cats would sodomize these females, screw them in the butt, man, have sex with them, and then torture them, and then just dump them along hillsides. Like, these cats just didn't care about the parents, man, and taking human life. It's crazy. And then for things that happen close to home, you go off the 5 off ramp off of Los Feliz and be like, damn. You go back years, some decades, and a body was right there. It's really freaky, very eerie. And so I remember going to and I have to do that because I pick up the energy. I go back 30, 40 years. So when I write about it, I write from here. So, if I'm writing about something and it's eerie, you're going to pick that up in what I write because I'm using psychic sensing. I use my psychic sensing abilities. And so I go to the La Bianca house, and I rolled down the window. And even though it was like 40 some years later, that rush, man, of energy was just so eerie. And I could just only imagine what those people went through. I mean, Lino LaBianca was on the couch asleep. And he woke up, boom, and it was Charles Manson. It got to be frightening. Like, who is this cat? What is this cat doing here? It's some frightening stuff. And this dude didn't have a clue that was the last night of his life. And the house looked very different. I would have never known it was so close. Like, it's over here, right by the Los Angeles Philosophical Research Society. And I used to go there, to study a lot of the literature there. It was set up by Manly P. Hall. And it's just a lot of heavy information at the Philosophical Research Society there on Los Feliz here in Los Angeles. And that's where the LaBianca murders took place. I believe it was August 9th, August 10th, 1969. It looks totally different now, but it's like, oh snap, like here, this was it. And how in the hell can anybody purchase that house? Like, I know they got to know the history that that type of murder took place there. I'm the type of person, I find out that a murder took place in the place I'm in, I'm selling a place. You know what I'm saying? I'm not into no Amityville horror type stuff. The DeFeo family. You got to tell me straight up what's the history here. And I find that out. Especially if it's a murder, I'm gone. I'm not dealing with that type of energy because murders imprint. Into houses, into rooms. That's why you can walk in a certain place and they just feel eerie, and that's because some eerie stuff took place. But I roll down the window, I look at the house, man, and I'm like, damn, boy, I mean, something very brutal took place there back in 1969. And the energy is just still there. And of course, the homeowners are unconscious. I'm quite sure they know that that's a part of LA history. And I just bounced. And it wasn't so far from Sam Cooke's house. So I go to Sam Cooke's old house, and I go up to the gate. And because I read so much, and I know Sam Cooke's son Vincent drowned in a swimming pool out front. And you go to the house, you see the swimming pool, and then you just use that psychic sensing ability, and it's like when you go back and you see certain things playing out. And Sam Cooke's Barbara Cook, she was having an affair with a 20-year-old or 19-year-old Bobby Womack. She was on the phone with him, and the little boy wasn't watched and got in the pool and drowned. And Sam Cooke was like, okay, I'm out of here. He was straight. That was it. He was divorcing Barbara, and that's why she was in on Sam Cooke's hit. But I went to that place there, and the same thing. Like, damn, boy, it's. I could just pick up on that energy. I could pick up on the energy of Sam Cooke's last night. It's just like, man, so when I write about it, it's like you will feel that energy. Like Lou Rawls said, he was like, man, Sam had death on him. The dog was barking, and my son was sleeping. He woke up crying. And, Sam just, he had the angel of death around him, and he was a goner. That was, nothing was going to be played out different, So I done talked about a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm going to get back to the Titanic because there's so many things that intrigue me, and you can put it all together as conspiracy, revisionist history, doesn't matter. It's just some stuff that intrigues certain people out there. And I met a lot of people just intrigued by the Manson murders, Jonestown and Jim Jones and Hillside Stranglers and what's that? The Zodiac killings in the Bay Area. Certain things that intrigue certain people. And it's not that people are into that stuff. People are just intrigued. It's the dark side. It's scary. And a lot of people are actually attracted to what they are afraid of. That's why horror movies do so well, because the evil, the darkness that we won't deal with, we project it on the big screen. So we got Michael Myers and Leatherface, and and these are just little characters that represent the dark side. And the closest we'll come to dealing with the dark side here in America is horror movies. It really speaks to the collective psychology of Americans. Where we'll spend millions of dollars, to be scared. We'll spend millions of dollars, as a population, as a nation, to mess up our adrenal glands. Because you ain't really primed for this. See, I watch horror movies as part of research. And I'm into health, so I protect my adrenal glands. But the average person who's watching a horror movie who's unconscious, I mean, they're doing some serious damage to their adrenal glands. And a lot of people don't know that about watching horror movies. I mean, you gotta really be grounded to get into horror. Like I said, I study horror to study the psychology of death, the psychology of killing, the psychology of murder. That intrigues me. That's a Scorpio in me. And it's like, man, what would I do in certain situations? When I study the Columbine killings, like, man, what do you do in that situation, man? Do you fiend like you're dead? Do you fake like you're dead? Do you run and zigzag and hoping the bullet don't hit you? What do you do in that situation? I've always been the type of cat I will sit down and think. So if something did happen, I already know what to do. You would think that, man, this dude is the coolest cat, man, because this dude did this, he did that. It ain't like it just, happened like that. You know, it's because I didn't thought about some stuff. You know, I'm a thinking person, and I think things out. So it's just a lot of interesting things that just happen in my life, which accounts for like all these books. Man, I'm telling you, I could, even though I'm into the metaphysics and spiritual awareness, that stuff still intriguing. This stuff here, these books behind me, you know, still intriguing. It's the Matrix, you know, and these books here. This is my social studies section, at least some of them. And these books here, like Media Virus and Ad Cult USA and Coercion and the Age of Manipulation and the Media Elite and Logos and Branding Children, the Media Monopoly, Culture Jam. I mean, those are some of the greatest books ever written that just really explain the matrix to you, man. The control, the mind control, the manipulation, the exploitation. You know, it's man. I mean, it's all given up. It's been written about. Nothing is a secret. You know, you just have to develop a love for learning. You know, reading, studying, and they're gonna give it to you. You know, and you just put it all together, and it's like, wow. You know, this world is really concocted, man. It's really set up. You know, it's like this phantasmagoria, you know, like situation that's been constructed, like in the movie. I think it was The Matrix 2, Part 2. You know, where there's a white gentleman in the white suit, and he's like, "I made the Matrix," and that's just how it is. You know, like you have an individual who is telling you that, "Oh, this is a Matrix." We set this up for you. You know, we gave you church, we gave you the public food system or the public school system. You know, we gave you government. We gave you all of this stuff. We gave you doctors. We gave you allopathic medicine. You know, we gave you Hollywood. You know, we gave you the mall. You know, it's like everything is concocted, man. You know, for control. You know, and it's either you're in or you out. You know, like in the movie The Matrix, it's either blue pill or red pill, and everybody has a choice. You know, and choices are made predicated upon information or the lack of information. That's what it all boils down to. So the more information you have, the more informed choices you can make. You know, I know they have psychic sensing in the department store, especially during the winter season. You know, you can't hear the message, but it's telling you to shop and spend, feel merry. It's like what my man John Carpenter put in the movie They Live, you know, with the subliminal messages, and they had like the black glasses, and you put the glasses on and you can really see the truth of the ads. You know, I mean, John Carpenter really got off on that movie. I've been a fan of John Carpenter's movies ever since Halloween. You know, I don't think he'll ever outdo Halloween, but you know, Halloween, Escape from New York, the Fog. I pretty much watched all of John Carpenter's movie, Dark Star, Assault on Precinct 13. Yeah, I just like what John Carpenter does, and he deals with those dark themes, man. And I just always wonder, why does this dude deal with those dark themes? And as I studied the psychology behind Halloween, it was really deep. I mean, I got to give John Carpenter a lot of credit, man. Halloween was really deep, and there's a scene in Halloween where Donald Pleasant's character as Dr. Loomis, he's in that school. Michael Myers breaks into a school, and he puts a knife in the desk, and Dr. Loomis starts breaking down Sam Hain, the Lord of the Dead, you know, and is really dealing with that the darkness within us, you know, that we're afraid of. And that was really deep, and I missed that the first time around. Of course, you know, as a little boy, I just was into the hoopla. You know, Halloween just, you know, it created a frenzy. You know, it was just this unique horror movie. First it was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, then it was Halloween back in 1978. And I remember during that time, I mean, everybody was talking about it. I mean, John Carpenter had done something totally different. Like Halloween spanned everything. The Friday the 13th, My Bloody Valentine, and Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, Halloween really set the mold. I mean, at first it was The Exorcist and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you know, and I've done the research on that and looked at the Real House, and I mean, it's really eerie, even though Hollywood, you know, they put a hell of a spin on it, you know, because there was really no Leatherface type character, you know, but there was a dude who was actually killing people, hanging them on hooks and things like that, and it was totally different. Just like there was a movie that came out called The Strangers, and have you ever seen The Strangers? The Strangers will freak you out. That's some eerie stuff. You know, and I'm like, sometimes I'm like, why do I watch this stuff here? You know, but it deals with my studies, going back to Manson and the murders and stuff like that. And it's like, there are actually people out here who will look normal, man, and they're just twisted, man. I mean, I got some images of some of the black bodies that Jeffrey Dahmer killed and just ripped apart, man. And I have this one image, and I'm like, what? I mean, this dude his chest cavity just wide open, man. I mean, because Jeffrey Dahmer was into cannibalism. And it just make you think, like, I mean, how many houses have you gone over to people? You meet people, I'm like, yeah, come on over, boom, 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 and because I study, I don't just go to anybody's house. At one point I did, and you study this stuff, and you sit back and think, like, I could be coming over to a murderer's house, man. A lot of people, like when you study the Hillside Stranglers, there was a call girl, and she went to a empty room in a building that Kenneth Bianchi stayed in. I believe it was on Hollywood on Tamarind Street. She just thought she was going to serve another trick, was murdered. So when you study the things that I study, it makes you think, like, I just can't be going anywhere. I got to be like in the movie Scarface. I got to take somebody with me, man. I'm going here, and look, if I ain't out in 10 minutes, you need to come knock on the door. You need to do whatever. Like planning things. And a lot of people just don't plan. You meet people, and can I come over? And you meet a guy, you like him, or a woman you like, and, you really don't know this person, So even though I'm a man, and I'm like, I meet anybody new. Listen, let's meet at Portello's Bakery on Brand, let's meet at Java Cafe or something like that. I got to really know you, because there are a lot of twisted people in the world, and there are a lot of people who play normal. There's a movie called American Psycho, and this dude is rich, rich white cat, got, I mean, everything that most people want as far as the material world is concerned. And this dude is straight butchering women, man. Appears normal, rich, and and this dude is murdering women. It's like, but that's some real stuff. You know what I'm saying? Movies reflect real life, and real life reflect movies. And there are people out there that are like that, I'm working on my article on the Natalie Wood murder. And, you look at Robert Wagner, and it's like this dude was on Heart to Heart. You never thought anything negative of Robert Wagner. Like, this dude, I mean, straight killed his wife. I mean, alcohol was involved, but I mean, the rage in this dude, man. I mean, this dude dragged that woman by her ankles off that boat. I spoke to author Marty Ruley. She is the author of the book Goodbye Natalie, Goodbye Splendor. And she saw my video, so she called the health store and Gump said, you got to call Marty. I said, who is Marty? I'm like, oh, snap, this is Marty Ruley, the author of the book. And that's just how my life go, man. I've met so many people, man, and the trip thing about it is, they reach out. I just do me, and it's just bam, bam, bam. They're just there. So I said, oh, snap. I said, well, what the hell she want with me and everything? Gump like, she want to talk to you, man. She got evidence, and just boom, boom, boom. So this was Sunday. I spoke to Marty Sunday, and I'm glad I did. And because I knew, there was more information that was not in the book. I read right through the book, and she told Gump, this guy, he saw right through everything that was said. He knew Dennis was lying, and Dennis, I'm talking about Dennis, who was the ship captain, the yacht captain. I saw right through it, and yeah, I mean, if you look at the evidence, man, you know what took place. This dude murdered his wife. But I think about Robert Wagner in a sense of becoming so enraged. And I truly believe that Christopher Walken and Natalie Wood were having an affair. And many people in Hollywood that was working with her on her last film, Brainstorm, which was released in 1983, also said the same thing, But I could just sense that, and especially Robert Wagner, the way he behaved, there had to have been that affair. But for that monster, that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, situation to manifest, and of all people, Robert Wagner, who has everything in life, like, is it that serious? I know you hurt, your woman is screwing around on you and things like that, but that dark side that's in us, man, that's, it comes out, rage, anger brings it out, and you beat the hell out this woman, right? You beat the hell out of Natalie Wood in that master stateroom, and you drag her by her ankles and you pull her out, where was it? It was the back of the back of the yacht where the swim step was. And Marty Ruley, she states in her book that Dennis Davern, while he's drunk at a bar, tells her, Marty, Robert's an evil man. He put the jacket on her. And I'm like, this dude actually put the jacket, and I knew that, Even Dennis didn't even give it up, but I knew it. He put the jacket on her, and this dude dragged her from the stateroom out back, opened up the door to the swim step, and threw that woman in that cold water. And I'm like, damn. But the trip thing about it wasn't how Davern tried to portray it. Robert was the last person with her, and I looked and I saw them together. Then, I looked again, and she was no longer on the boat. It's like, dude, just tell the truth. And Suzanne Finstad gives it up in her book on Natalie Wood, which is a great book, which really allowed me to just put everything together. Of course, reading interviews by her sister Lana Wood, and it was Lana Wood. I believe it was Lana Wood, and it was something else, and I believe it was on Marty Ruley's blog, whereby the statement that Dennis made, whereby Robert Wagner told him, "Leave her there, teach her a lesson." And that's what happens. He put that woman in the water out of anger, knew she was afraid of the water, and he was seriously trying to teach her a lesson. But what Dennis didn't convey is that Robert Wagner and Dennis Davern went back on board, and they were drinking wine. So Natalie Wood was in the water for 15, 20 minutes, crying out, help, I'm drowning. And so Marilyn Payne and John Payne, her boyfriend, they actually heard the cries for 15, 20 something minutes. So Dennis Davern was talking about how he got the music on loud because he was trying to, he was actually trying to drown out, the argument, the profanities of Robert Wagner and Natalie Wood. And that wasn't the case. They had the music on loud so that the other people moored in the two harbors at Catalina Island could not hear the woman's cries. That's why Dennis Davern had the music on. He wasn't trying to ignore their argument. She was in the water. And they got toasted, man. They was drinking. And so, Dennis is like, yo, Robert, let's go check on her, man. Natalie's been out there for a minute. And so when they go out there and check on Natalie, she's gone. The currents didn't put her away. So they panicked, and that's why it wasn't that, she was gone from 11 and then at 1:30 they noticed they called for help. No, they actually went to go check on her at 1:30. They were drinking for 2 hours. And it was at 1:30 when Dennis Davern said, let's go check on her, that Natalie was gone. So that's why you keep hearing Dennis talk about Robert Wagner come back saying, she's gone. She's gone. She's gone. Yeah, she's gone. Gone and like dead. So this dude panicked. Because where else is she going to go? She doesn't know how to swim. The water was like 54 something degrees. So hypothermia kicked in about 30 minutes. She lived, for a few hours, but the hypothermia kicked in, not being rescued, she was going to be a goner. And it's like, that dark side came out of this dude, and that dude murdered his wife, man, and got away with it too, So, the dark side of life is there. A lot of people don't want to deal with it. And a lot of people are attracted to what they don't want to deal with. A lot of people are attracted to what they are afraid of, but there's a psychology behind that. But whether it's in the movies or, in real life or, in actuality, for a person like myself, it's very intriguing. I used to go to a car wash in Glendale in Colorado. And this was back in the 90s. I would take the Steins' car there, who were my bosses at the last corporate job I had. And I used to go to this car wash for them. And I ended up taking my car wash there as well, too, because they did a really good job. And right next to that car wash, the address is 703 Colorado. Now, of course, when you study like me, you remember addresses. That's how I ended up going to Sam Cooke's house and the La Bianca house. I remember addresses. Arthur, what's his name? Arthur Lee Allen, who was the Zodiac Killer. He resided at 32 Fresno. He resides within 1 mile of my mother-in-law's house in Vallejo, California. Put in the GPS, go there. I do some psychic sensing. And I can just look and just like, yeah, that's some eerie energy there. And Arthur Lee Allen stayed there, and yes, he was the Zodiac. The evidence point to it. It's all. I mean, man, it's. I mean, yeah, it's circumstantial, but it all points to it. I mean, you take the Lake Berryessa murders, and we're talking Zodiac now, and I know I've been all over the place. But we're talking Lake Berryessa, we're talking Zodiac killers, you know. And if you haven't seen the movie Zodiac, I highly recommend the movie Zodiac. Great movie, on the money. Hollywood rarely makes a movie that is like 100% truth, you know. So this is like 95 to 98% accurate. Great movie, one of my favorite movies, Zodiac. But anyway, you take the Lake Berryessa murders. Law enforcement finds boot imprints from windwalkers, which are military type boots you can only get in the military. They're size 10 and a half, right? They measure it. And so they go to 32 Fresno Street, which is where Arthur Lee Allen resided, and they find windwalkers. 10 and a half. I mean, come on, man. You know, this dude owns a Zodiac watch with the symbol. It has the symbol. That's where he got it from, Zodiac. He owned a Zodiac watch. His shoe size was 10 and a half. Okay? He was military. Okay? Because the books whereby the codes came from were stolen from naval bases in the Bay Area. This dude was in the military. You know, you can't steal from the military. You have to be in the military in order to steal from the military, you know. And it's like, this dude is Zodiac, man. You know, and I thought, what's his name? Robert Grayston. I forget his name, but Robert Graysmith. I'm sorry, Robert Graysmith. He wrote the book Zodiac and Zodiac Unmasked. You know, a damn cartoonist solved the Zodiac murders, and of course they deny it, but I mean, he did his research, and he's my type of person, my type of researcher, and he solved it, and he put everything together. And this personality, and of course this name is going to slip my mind, but he got a phone call the week before Christmas. I believe it was, what was it? I believe it was. No, he got a call on Christmas Day, which was December 25th. And he got a phone call. He wasn't there, but his maid, his housekeeper, answered the phone, and it was the Zodiac. And she talked to him for a while, and he admitted to her that his birthday was last week. And this phone call was on December 25th. Robert Graysmith put it together. He's like, wait a minute, 1 week from December 25th is December 18th. And so when he did the research on Arthur Lee Allen, he found out that Arthur Lee Allen was born on December 18th. So Robert Graysmith put together like, this dude is Zodiac, because he got a printout of his California driver's license. And Arthur Lee Allen's birthday was December 18th. I think he was born in 1940, something in 1930, 30s or 40s, what have you, because this took place in the 60s and the early 70s. But he got a printout of his driver's license, and sure enough, December 18th, whatever year, the 30s, 1930s and 1940s, whatever the year was, but it was the birth date was actually December 18th. And Graysmith, he puts it together like, wait a minute, you know, when that dude called and told her that, yeah, it's my birthday, you know, well, my birthday was a week ago, and Robert Graysmith get the copy of the California driver's license, it's like, oh, December 18th, oh my God, you know, he did call 1 week after his birthday. He confided in the housekeeper that it was his birthday a week ago, and he was calling this particular celebrity. You watched the movie, you know what I'm talking about. And he was the guy who was supposed to have interviewed the Zodiac on the air when he was supposed to go public. And there was somebody talking about headaches and the head hurt and what have you. But if you watch the movie, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, but Robert Graysmith did a great job of putting things together and just really exposing who the Zodiac killer was. And, you know, the government doesn't have an interest in, you know, really letting people know what time it is, because it's like, damn, a government, you know, a member of the military, which is government. But, you know, damn, this is military, somebody in the military. You know, the American people would lose respect for, you know, the military, you know. Just like you find out police officers doing murders, you know, damn, people are going to lose respect for law enforcement. You know, if they can't respect law enforcement, you know, we're in trouble here. So a lot of time you just suppress, you know, you suppress the findings, the facts, the evidence of government, of law enforcement, you know, of military, you know, because they're people too, you know, and they have a dark side too, you know. And a lot of these guys are cold calculating. So it's like, you know, like the Hillside Stranglers, excuse me, Kenneth Bianchi and Angela Bono. I mean, these guys had fake badges, and they were acting like they were members of Los Angeles Police Department. So a few of the women who were actually murdered, they only went with them because they thought that they were really under arrest. So Kenneth Bianchi, I mean, he was really a security guard. He wanted to be a member of the LAPD and the Glendale Police Department, was turned down. They got fake badges, and they would stop women and, hey, you're under arrest, or we have to ask you some questions. You got to come with us to the station. And they put the women in the car and take the women to Angelo Bono's house. Now, I went to Kenneth Bianchi's, he lived in like this little apartment complex here in Glendale. And then Angelo Bono, his house. Now, remember, I was telling you about this car wash I go to, right? And next door to it, 703 Colorado, is an auto mechanic shop. Well, that's the auto mechanic shop that used to belong to Angelo Bono. Okay, the murders of the women during the Hillside Strangler killing spree took place right there. And I'm at this car wash, and I'm like, man, all these years, man, I'm right next to the location where these women were murdered. These women were murdered, and that it is different now because it used to be a house, and they got rid of the house, and now it's just an auto mechanic shop. You can actually Google it, 703 East Colorado, and you'll see what it looks like now. And those murders took place right there. So you'd be like, man, this stuff is so close to home. Man, it's crazy, whether it's the La Bianca house, Sam Cooke, either Hillside Strangler, and you just go to these places, man, and just like, wow, okay, this cat used to stay here. But see, the thing for me is, I'd be curious as to the current, the homeowners, or whoever, the dwellers, whoever dwells in the apartment or house, whatever it may be. My thing is, do they know what took place here? Because there's no way in the world I could stay in that place with that energy there. It's imbued in the woods. It's imbued, in this structure here. Whether it's new carpet, what have it, doesn't matter. It's in the wood. It's in the infrastructure. And a lot of things took place at that building that Kenneth Bianchi stayed in here in Glendale. The energy is there. And, I mean, these dudes were just, they were just really into some unskillful, dark practices, man. Wetting towels and beating women with towels and, forcing women to perform oral sex. Kidnapping women and making them into sex slaves and prostitutes and anal sex, man. They kidnapped these two little girls and turned them out into prostitutes. They end up escaping too, but these women had to wear diapers, man, because they were leaking anally, man. Angelo Bono and Kenneth Bianchi, man, it was some serious stuff going on with these cats, predicated upon, what these guys did. And so when you study the bodies, man, and blood dripping from the rectums, they were really deep into that whole anal thing and really torturing women, man. You talking about misogynistic, a misanthrope that just happens to be misogynistic. It was Angelo Bono and Kenneth Bianchi, and the things that they did to these women. You would really think that these guys would have received the death penalty. Electrocuted, gas chamber, lethal injection, something. If you really study it, as a matter of fact, I actually have a book there called The Hillside Strangler, which is a great book, a great read, and goes into if you like details, then you want to get the book. You don't want to mess around with the movies like the Ted Bundy movie. You want to get the book and really get the details if you can handle it, because a lot of stuff is seriously grotesque. It's very brutal. You got to really be able to fathom a lot of what took place. There's a saying that goes, "The dead teach the living," and the images, the picture of these crime scenes, they speak. The picture's worth 1,000 words. So when you start looking at pictures of Sharon Tate body, Marilyn Monroe body, you start looking at these people in the morgue, man, and Rosemary LaBianca, and you start looking at these bodies, man, and the eyes kind of half open and stab wounds and stuff. It's like, man, boy, you signed up for something, man, because there are no accidents. But man, you signed up, man, to check out a hell of a way. When you start looking at these bodies, man, from these murders, it just sits back and make you think. Because my whole thing is like, man, how could you resort to murder outside of self-defense? That's my whole thing. Like, how do you take somebody's life, man? I mean, just I'm looking at it from my eyes. Like, how do you snuff out somebody's life, man? You got somebody there and they're choking and life is going out of them, man. And it's like, how do you process that, man? And do that, and it don't even do nothing to you, So Kim Bianchi and Angela Bono was like, they're giving each other daps and everything. We did it, Angelo, we did it. And it's like, damn. So I'm saying all this to say that there are people like that in this society. I mean, these guys are picking up women at the Eagle Rock Plaza, And I take my children there, they go to the little Chuck E. Cheese just to play. We don't mess around with the stuff there. It's just, an indoor play center. And it's like, damn, these cats were picking up women here at the Eagle Rock Plaza. There's just so much stuff that's close to home, man. You deal with New York, Chicago, but especially L.A., man. There's a lot of dark stuff happening in these major cities, San Francisco, Boston. These big cities, man, they're vortexes, and a lot of activity take place, but it's a lot of darkness that take place, in the major cities, and there's a lot of stuff that take place, dark stuff that take place in rural areas, but a lot of stuff dark stuff take place in the metro areas, and a lot of stuff is just close to home. The Black Dahlia murders took place on 43rd and Crenshaw, in that area over there, before it was populated by black people. And it's like, damn, man, this is just close to home, man. Like, do the people who stay in this house know that the Black Dahlia murders took place on their land? That's what I be thinking, Like, I like to study this stuff, but there's certain people, man, who, you take this dude named Rudy Altabello, and he owned the house that Roman Polanski rented, him and Sharon Tate, Rudy Altabello. This dude was like, I could go in the daytime and research. There's no way in the world I'm going there by myself at nighttime in this house where these murders took place. Yeah, Scorpio ascended love to research, but I don't have it in me like that. It could be because I'm black, African American. There's just certain things black folks don't do. Like you heard Eddie Murphy talk about back in the day about poltergeist. If our daughter ends up in a television set, it's like, we gone. You know what I'm saying? Whereas white people, they're, screaming, and where are you? And we just out, So, like, I believe it was Richard Pryor who said, we hear something says, get out. We gone. We leaving everything. We gone. Whereas white people like, what do you want? Why are you doing this? And, that's like, whoa, okay, that's a whole different type of dynamic. Y'all some pretty brave, bold people there. Because all we got to do is see a sign and we gone. We leaving everything behind. The dog, like the Amityville Horror, they went back for the dog. Black folks would not be going back for no dog. The dog would be gone. Dad, the dog, well, we just gonna get another dog because we got to go. The place was haunted, and that's just how black folks, do. So my whole thing is just the research, and I'm not trying to go into no spot because, like I said, I can use psychic since I could be, 40, 50, 60 feet away, a few yards away, and it works, it works for me. It works for myself to pick up the energy and to just, to just feel. But this dude, Rudy Altabello, this cat owned the house, right? Do you know this cat left the blood in the carpet of Sharon Tate, Wojciech Frykowski, and Abigail Folger? The murders took place in the house. You had Sharon Tate, you had her old boyfriend, Jay Sebring, international hairstylist. You had Abigail Folger, you have Wojciech Frykowski, and of course, Stephen Earl Parent, he was killed in a car. But Tate, Sebring, Folger, Frykowski, these people were, stabbed, because Abigail and Wojciech, they found them on the lawn. But there was blood all over the carpet in the house. Dude, this sucker left the blood there. I mean, this dude stayed there by himself. He was proud of that house. There's certain people out there, man, that they can hang and deal with this stuff here. And it's like he thought it was cool. He would bring guests over. Look, that's the blood. That's Sharon Tate's blood. How do you leave the blood from a from that type of murder, man, that type of scene, how do you leave that there, man? The energy from that, it was crazy. The things that this dude preserved, man, is is to me is unskillfully, like dark, unskillfully dark, because there's skillful and there's unskillful. And this dude is way in the boonies, and man, you go over there Benedict Canyon at night, it will freak the hell out of you. Every year there's certain people in LA, they make their journey of the killers. And these are people who are for the most part straight. They're not murderers, what have you. They're just really intrigued by the Manson murder, so they relive the last night of Sharon Tate and Sebring, Fikowski, and Abigail Folger. And they had dinner at El Coyote on Sunset. So the restaurant yesterday, like today is what, the 10th. Yes, no, it's actually the 11th now. But this week was the 43rd anniversary of the Manson murders. So if you went to El Coyote restaurant on Sunset Boulevard, it was sold out, because there are actually people who travel all over to do this ritual where they relive the last night of the victims, the quote-unquote victims of the Manson murders. They go to El Coyote, and they drive up to Benedict Canyon, they park the car, and they walk up, the hill. They do everything that the killers did, Charles Tex Watson and Linda Kasabian and Susan Atkins and just the whole killer crew, and relive that stuff. And I'm like, that's some deep stuff, man. Because like I said, I'm a researcher, and I research the dark stuff. I'm not doing no ritual like that, man. That's not me. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of people out there who could actually be better researchers than me, because they wouldn't have a problem going into the house, spending the night in the house by themselves, and and really picking up some stuff. So I think there's a lot of people out there who really do certain things that if they were writers, man, they would. You would really feel, what really took place from the words as expressed from the writer in a particular book, or whatever it is they're writing. But that's not me. So, but anyway, folks, to wrap this video up, Titanic, it really happened. It was an insurance scheme, an insurance scam, and J.P. Morgan made a fortune. Whatever the cost of the Titanic was, he got 10 times that amount from the insurance. And purposely sank it out there in the Atlantic Ocean, where the icebergs were. It was very, 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 very dark and cold out there. And, they were just smart. We're going to sink the ship out there. It'll never be found, And if, and in his mind, if it's found, hell, I'll be dead and gone, which he was. So it was found in 1985, but still, they couldn't bring anything up. They didn't really have any evidence. All the evidence was from the people who survived it, but you didn't hear from them. You see, as a matter of fact, oh yeah, here we go. Check this out. Check this book. I haven't done big book reviews in a while, but check this out. This book is called The Titanic Conspiracy: Cover-Ups and Mysteries of the World's Most Famous Sea Disaster. This is by Robert Gardiner and Dan Van der Vat. The Titanic Conspiracy. This book is awesome. And then this book goes into what I just told you guys about the Olympic and the Titanic and how the names were taken off right before the quote-unquote or so-called maiden voyage. This book is the bomb diggity. So, I bought it many years ago. Look for it on Amazon or internet, what have you, used bookstore. It's called The Titanic Conspiracy. And this is a great read. It's very intriguing. Very, very, very intriguing. And that's in the collection along with some other things. And I got this video called Titanic: A Question of Murder. It's 2 parts, and it was produced in Britain. I got to give Britain some props, especially when things happen in America. Great Britain be putting out documentaries that are like 100, damn near 100% accurate, and we don't really see them over here. But they're done in Great Britain, and they just give up everything. Like Dennis Davern did an interview in England, and he pretty much told everything that happened with the Natalie Wood murder. So I got to give England their daps and things. But if something happens in England, like with the Princess Diana murder, then it's different. They like how we are over here in America. How we bits and pieces, and the official story sucks, and you got to do your own research. So if it's something pertaining to conspiracy, quote unquote conspiracy in England, they don't give up the daps. But if it's something over here that happened in America, the O.J. Simpson murders, the Natalie Wood murders, what have you. Man, they give it up. But then Princess Diana, you talk about how she was murdered, which she was murdered, and just that whole thing that happened is they give you the official story, So, but anyway, I still give them props for what they do pertaining to things that happen here on American soil. So with that, people, I'm going to go ahead and end this video. On behalf of dhealthstore.com, I'm Tootie Motrock. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Peace and love.